Module 4, Part 1, Assessment, Screening, and Safety Planning for Domestic Violence Survivors. In this module, we will discuss some of the processes that keep survivors of domestic violence safe, including assessment, screening, and safety planning. The objectives are to develop the skills necessary to provide an accurate assessment of the client's needs and safety, to develop skills necessary to assist clients with developing appropriate safety plans, to ensure the safety and confidentiality of clients, and to increase participants' understanding of the benefits and dangers of technology related to a client's safety. As advocates that work directly with survivors, it is best practice to guide by an empowerment model. Empowerment is a multidimensional social process of increasing the capacity of individuals or groups to make choices and to transform those choices into desired actions and outcomes. This process creates the power to use these choices in their own life, community, and society, with individuals acting on issues that they define as important. Let's emphasize some important aspects. Multidimensional. True empowerment involves numerous aspects of a survivor's life, including spiritual and political beliefs, social circles, racial and gender identity, educational background and aspirations, and economic circumstances. Choices. In the empowerment model, the survivor is making choices for themselves, not the advocate. And creating power. Empowerment should assist the survivor in gaining the skills and strength needed to make choices and take action for themselves. This does not involve the advocate doing things for the survivor. Using the empowerment model when working with survivors means that the individual is not blamed for his or her problems, but is responsible for generating a solution. Take a moment to think about what a needs assessment is. Needs assessment is a systematic process for determining and addressing needs or gaps between current conditions and desired conditions or wants. A needs assessment is an important part of the planning process and is an excellent tool for clarifying problems and identifying appropriate solutions or interventions. You will probably not be completing a comprehensive needs assessment during crisis calls, as this tool is more commonly used during case management. However, a few needs assessment-related questions may be useful in helping crisis line callers to identify possible resources and alternatives. Now, take a moment to think about what a danger assessment is. A domestic violence danger assessment helps to determine the level of danger a victim has of being killed by his or her intimate partner. Assessment tools. For this section, we have identified 2 danger assessment tools which can be used as examples. You may choose to use one or both of these assessments when working with survivors. In addition, you may want to include any assessments used by your organization which are not included here. The danger assessment. This was created by Jacqueline Campbell at the Johns Hopkins School of Nursing. It involves a series of 20 questions. In order to appropriately score the assessment, advocates need to take an online training. The tool uses a weighted scoring system to assess the level of danger. The questions are weighted based on research showing that certain issues are more or less relevant for lethality risk. This scoring system is very important for accurately predicting a victim's level of danger. The course provides access to the weighted scoring system and training for its interpretation. More information on the assessment and training can be found at www.dangerassessment.org. The Mosaic Threat Assessment. This was created by Gavin Becker. This assessment is a series of questions which must be completed entirely online. Victims should expect to spend about 30 to 45 minutes completing this assessment and should use a safe computer. Mosaic is free, but requires that the user register with the website. The registrant does not need to use their real name, but must have a valid email address. For more information on this assessment, you can go to www.mosaicmethod.com. You may choose to review the Mosaic Threat Assessment in one of 2 ways. The first option is to simply tell participants about this assessment briefly and then move on. The second option is to review the series of questions with participants. This would require that you register for the site and have access to the internet. Danger assessment is a complex process and will generally not be completed on the crisis line. However, questions from these assessments may be used on the crisis line to assist callers in understanding the seriousness of their situation. Suicide and domestic violence. It is strongly recommended that agencies invite a local organization with expertise in the area of suicide to complete a presentation on this topic for all staff. Suicide prevention is a complex issue which should be introduced by experts when possible. Often, local mental health organizations or suicide prevention hotlines will have a staff member available to make presentations on this topic. However, for those organizations without access to a local presenter, the following section provides an overview of suicide and suicide prevention. The risk for suicide is extremely high among victims and survivors. This slide includes a list of risk factors for suicide identified by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Risk factors include a combination of individual, relational, community, and societal factors contribute to the risk of suicide. Risk factors are those characteristics associated with suicide. They may or may not be direct causes. Risk factors include family history of suicide, family history of child maltreatment, previous suicide attempt or attempts, history of mental disorders, particularly clinical depression, history of alcohol and substance abuse, feelings of hopelessness, impulsive or aggressive tendencies, cultural and religious beliefs, such as the belief that suicide is noble resolution of a personal dilemma, local epidemics of suicide, isolation, a feeling of being cut off from other people, barriers to assessing mental health treatment, loss, including relational, societal, work, or financial, physical illness, easy access to lethal methods, and unwillingness to seek help because of the stigma attached to mental health and substance abuse disorders or the suicidal thoughts. Identifying warning signs using PLAD PALS. PLAD stands for plan, check in with the person, do they have a plan? Do not be afraid to ask someone if they have a plan of how they would commit suicide and what it is. Lethality. Is it lethal? Can it really work? Plans that involve swallowing a bottle of Tylenol are less likely to be effective than the use of a gun. Availability. Does the person have the means to carry their plan? If they are talking about taking pills and alcohol, do they have the pills? Illness. Has the person been diagnosed with a mental illness or a serious physical illness? Depression. Has the person had serious depression or are they chronically depressed? PALS stands for previous attempts. Has the person attempted suicide before? How many times and how recently? Alone. Is the person alone? Do they have a support system? Many victims of domestic violence do not have a support system and are kept isolated by their batterer. Loss. Has the person suffered a loss? How recently? Most victims have suffered a loss of their relationship or the relationship they once knew, and many have lost their self-esteem. Substance abuse. Does the person suffer from substance abuse? If so, which substances and how frequently do they use? Are they currently under the influence? Substance abuse is high among trauma survivors, and many victims of domestic violence are suffering from trauma. Let's go over some suicide prevention tips. Speak up if you're worried. It's okay to talk to people about suicide. Respond quickly in a crisis. If you are concerned that someone is in immediate danger, you need to act quickly. This is not the time to worry about other things, and it's not something that can get put off until a more convenient time. Offer help and support. Often, suicidal people feel very alone and need to know that someone is concerned about them. Refer them to local counseling and mental health services, but also let them know that you are available to support them for as long as they need. If possible, follow up with them after the incident and ensure that they are receiving help. Do not leave the person alone. If you believe a person is in immediate danger of committing suicide, do not leave them alone. If it is a caller on the crisis line, try to keep them on the phone until help can be reached, or if they seem calm and have agreed not to hurt themselves. Never keep a suicidal plan secret. If you believe that a person is truly in danger, you cannot keep the information to yourself. Even if the person has asked you not to tell anyone, you have to call 911. Remember that it's not your decision. You may come across situations in which the person attempts or commits suicide despite your attempts to help. If this happens, it's important to remember that you have no control over the decisions that other people make, and it's not your fault. Safety planning. In this section, we will discuss safety planning with victims and survivors. A safety plan does not have to be about the victim leaving their relationship. It is about planning to stay safe in an abusive situation. Safety plans should be flexible, developed to meet the changing needs of individual survivors. A safety plan can be used in a variety of situations, such as dealing with an emergency, continuing to live with or date an abusive partner, and protecting yourself and your children after you have ended a relationship with an abusive partner. The first step in safety planning is to assess the victim's current level of safety. The slide lists some key questions to ask. Is either the survivor or their children in immediate danger? Has the violence escalated recently? Are there weapons in the home? And if the victim is not safe, do they have a safety plan? Safety plans should be comprehensive, considering a variety of circumstances. A plan for if the abuser takes the kids, a plan for if the abuser locks the client in or out of the house, etc. The plan needs to be concrete and practical. Make sure the plan you develop with the survivor can be carried out and that the victim understands it. Make sure the plan has local resource numbers that the victim may need. Components of a safety plan may include packing a bag in advance, having personal documents ready, hiding extra sets of house or car keys, establishing a code with family or friends, and a plan where to go. Safety planning and culture. It is important to consider cultural factors that may come up for a client around safety planning. For example, the role of women in their culture, access to financial resources, ability to drive, connection to extended family, and religion. Factors such as these are not meant to stop you from safety planning with the client, but to alert you to the fact that the client may have limitations. These factors and other factors related to culture, religion, personal beliefs, and values need to be discussed with the client so the safety plan is something the client can actually implement. Technology safety. Every time we turn around, there is a new computerized gadget that is intended to make our lives easier, and for the most part, these are positive. At this point, most of us could not imagine living without technology as we know it today. But there are pros and cons to everything, including technology and safety. It is vital to get tech safety information to victims, but we need to do it in ways that do not give ideas or explicit instructions to abusers and perpetrators. For example, there are cell phone settings that can be used to monitor you, so it may be safer to turn cell phones off when not in use. Don't publish details about silent mode or auto answer. Please do not post explicit tech information on the websites or publish in newsletters that will be posted on websites. Visit www.nnedv.org/safetytech or contact SafetyNet team for further information. We will also discuss technology safety further in Part 2 of this module. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this overview of assessment, screening, and safety planning. As you continue to explore Part 1 of Module 4, completing the exercises and activities will provide a deeper understanding of how to assist survivors.